Hello, my friends. In this video, we're going to explore the genetic results of Vestonice16, which is a Gravettian individual from Czechia. This person lived 28 millennia before the Common Era. His Y DNA was C1A2 and his mitochondrial lineage was U5. This video is a little bit different from the typical video format that I've been posting in the past month. It's because I got a little bit too much work. I have too much stuff to do, so I wasn't able to keep on track with my schedule. You will see a video on Srubne culture coming next, and I already prepared all the data for it. I just need to write out the script and actually edit the video, which is for me the most difficult part of editing these videos. But it is coming, and it's gonna be the next video I put out. You might be questioning where did I get this picture for the picture of what this individual looks like. Very good question. I'm going to answer it for you right now. So if you look at the phenotype oracle, you look at the closest oracle admixture for this individual. You see the closest mixture is a mixture of Andronovo Turanid. Wait, hold on. Andronovo Turanid plus um, Melanesian phenotype. The second closest mixture is also Andronovo Turanid plus a different variation of Melanesian phenotype. So what I did is I took the closest mixture, Andronovo Turanid for the first mixture and Melanesian phenotype for the second closest mixture. And I put them in here and I morphed them together, right? So when you morph these two phenotypes together, you end up having a phenotype that looks sort of, I would say maybe Bengali, maybe South Indian, kind of ambiguous looking phenotype, maybe even Polynesian. It's hard to say what it looks like. Maybe it's because also this software, FaceMorph.me, kind of slightly distorts the original pictures as well, because it doesn't look the same way. But so this is the picture I used for the predicted phenotype of Vestonice16. Let's just say that this is what this individual looked like, because the predicted phenotypes for this individual are the closest phenotype is this, the second closest is this, the third closest is this, and the mixtures that are closest to him in terms of phenotypes are essentially all a mixture of Eurasian phenotypes with Melanesian phenotypes. So, in terms of looks, appearance, this person did not look European. This person looked rather foreign to Europe, rather maybe South Indian, maybe Bengali, maybe Hawaiian or something, but not European. All right. Now let's look at the Nasha code calculator results. Let's see what this individual had in terms of eye color, hair color, skin color. So for eye color, he is scoring brown eyes at 50% likelihood. So definitely brown eye color. Absolutely 0% odds of blue eyes, and well, that's expected. For somebody from the Upper Paleolithic, he's got black hair at 98% odds, so he definitely has black hair. And he's got olive or Mediterranean skin tone or light brown skin. So essentially, one of these two skin tones is most likely his skin tone. Doesn't have dark brown skin, doesn't really have palest or white skin tone, so most likely his skin tone is either olive or light brown. And in terms of hair texture, he's actually scoring curly hair, which is very interesting, right? And for nose shape, he's scoring Greek shaped nose, which is also very, very interesting. Now, for light color variants, it is kind of surprising that he's got two light color variants, no these HERC2 variants here. This would contribute to light pigmentation, but he's, as we see, still scoring very low for chance of blue eyes, 0% also chance of blue eyes, and that is because he doesn't have any light color variants in here, here, or here, and there's probably some other contributions to this as well. Let's scroll past. Yes, he also doesn't have any light color variants in SLC 45A2. That's a big contribution as well. So with this type of genotype, it is no surprise, absolutely no surprise, no light color variants here in SERP1 as well. So with this type of genotype, it is no surprise that he is scoring 0% odds of blue eyes. Absolutely no surprise whatsoever. Let's see, does he have any ginger variants? No, he does not have any ginger variants in MC1R. And that is his predicted eye color, hair color, skin color, and nose shape and hair texture. All right. I think it would be also pretty cool to see his ethnic calculator results with my ethnicity calculator. It's not the best ethnicity calculator, but it's still pretty interesting sometimes to see. So he's closest to Большой Оленей Остров, which is Bronze Age people in the Kola Peninsula. They are kind of like a mixture of Eastern hunter-gatherer with West Siberian. So it's kind of surprising that he's scoring closest to them. Followed by South Indians from Rupkund, followed by Shahri Sakhta Bronze Age period too, which are also very similar to South Indians, followed by Goyet, which is a Aurignacian individual, followed by Punjabi Jat and South Asian. So he's quite South Asian or South Indian. That's very interesting. Um, very interesting. So there is quite a significant shift towards South Eurasia in this individual. And for two-way models, he's getting modeled as a mixture of Karakaba Turkic plus Cimmerian from Ukraine, Afontova Garatri plus Rupkund South Indian. That's very telling because Afontova Garatri actually descends from people like Vestonice16. They actually descend from the Gravettians. So him getting modeled as Afontova Garatri plus Rupkund South Indian is very interesting. Goyet Q16 plus Punjabi Jat, Goyet Q116 plus Большой Оленей Остров. Very, very interesting. So this individual is not scoring like a European would with the ethnicity calculator. Maybe what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna run him through Eurogene's 13 and show you Eurogene's 13 results. Alright, so here's his Eurogene's 13 results. As you can see, he's scoring 13.5% South Asian, also scoring 4.5% Oceanian. He's scoring quite a lot of Sub-Saharan, Red Sea, and Amerindian and Siberian as well. So he's scoring a lot of components that are very exotic for Europeans to score. But the majority of his ancestry is still, North Atlantic, Baltic, West Mediterranean, typical for Europeans. So because of that, the closest populations to him are actually East Germans, Austrians, Hungarians, West Germans. So the closest populations to him are actually still Europeans. But if you look at the oracles, he's getting more or less a mixture of Spanish Galicia plus Tatar, Tatar plus Spanish Cantabria, Mari plus French Basque, Tatar plus Spanish Castilla y Leon. So he's getting more or less a mixture of something exotic plus European, right? And if you look at the mixed mode, this is getting a little bit better approximation at closer distance. The closest mixture is 78% East German plus 21% Austroasiatic Ho. And this might have sounded inappropriate, but Ho is a ethnicity name. All right, let's move on to his biomarkers results. So for biomarkers, let's zoom out actually. All right, so for biomarkers, it looks like he's got average levels of vitamin D, which is pretty good. Lower levels of LDL cholesterol, which is really, really good, and higher levels of HDL cholesterol. That's really good to see. A really good predisposition. Lower levels of glucose, which is also a really good predisposition, quite protected from type 2 diabetes, and average level of hemoglobin. All right, but he does have a predisposition to slightly higher blood pressure, but that's kind of like a wishy-washy prediction. It doesn't really matter too much. He's got does not have hemochromatosis. That's really good to see as well. And let's see what else. And he's got below average height. Okay, interesting. That's kind of contradictory though, because we know that Gravettians are known to be one of the tallest people in the world based on their skeletal remains. So that's very interesting that my tool predicts this individual to have below average height. I wonder what his actual skeletal height is based on the skeletal remains. Also, it's interesting that the image doesn't load here. Okay. Now let's look at the polygenic risk scores for this individual. And it looks like he's got averages of kidney stones. Looks like he has one risk variant for arrhythmia nodosum and very high odds for that as well. No variants for hemoglobin E disease. That's really good to see. Below averages for migraine. Lupus, we're going to skip. Gout. Looks like average odds for gout. Average odds for eczema. Very low odds for exfoliation glaucoma. We might want to look that up. Looks like he's got some protective variants from that. Let's look that up in the file. We should be able to find something here. So he does have two genotypes here that protect from exfoliation glaucoma, which is really good to see. Okay. He's got average odds of polycystic ovary syndrome, which doesn't really matter too much for him because he's not a woman, a female. That only really affects females. He's got average odds for cataracts. He's got very low odds for AMD. Really good to see. He's got average odds for rheumatoid arthritis. He's got low odds for Tourette's. Average odds for epilepsy. Slightly above averages for asthma. Now, we see that he's got slightly above averages for asthma. And if we scroll up a bit, we see for lupus. Hold on, let's see lupus. And he's got slightly above average odds for lupus. So we see above average for asthma and we see above average for lupus. Now, one thing that ties these two together is that they're both reliant on the HLA gene panel. So if you score high risk for HLA gene panel, you're probably going to score high risk for asthma and lupus as well. So let's look up HLA here and see what he scores for the HLA gene panel. Hold on. Right. And indeed, he does have higher odds for autoimmune disease based on HLA gene, right? So the HLA gene panel is not looking really good, and that's why he was scoring so high for the odds of lupus and asthma. Well, not super high because you know if you look at the score, it's like 1.3. It's not super high, but it's still kind of high. Let's look at the HLA genotypes real quick and see if there's anything serious going on here. This right here in HLA-A is kind of serious. This is okay. This is okay. This is good. This is bad. Leads to higher odds of multiple sclerosis, but it does not affect the score for MS. This is really bad for HLA-B27. This is actually super rare, by the way. Really rare genotype. And do we see anything else that's super bad? We see a genotype for higher odds of type 1 diabetes here in HLA-D. And we see a genotype that greatly reduces the odds of type 1 diabetes as well. So there's good and the bad. There's HLA-DRB1 carrier. So this individual is going to have high odds of multiple sclerosis, which is a very Northern European trait. Very interesting. And overall, we're also probably going to see higher odds of multiple sclerosis based on this genotype. Let's actually look it up in polygenic risk score page. Multiple sclerosis. Let's see. Yes, higher odds of multiple sclerosis as well. Not super high, not extremely high, but still higher than average odds of multiple sclerosis. All right. Now, where were we? We were at asthma. So this individual's got lower odds of leukemia. He's got lower odds of vitiligo, really good. He's got lower odds of myopia, really good. He's got lower odds of corneal astigmatism, really good. He does have higher odds of primary biliary cirrhosis, and he's got some risk variants here for that as well. He's got lower odds of stroke, really good. He's got average odds of male pattern hair loss, which is quite interesting because West Eurasians, Europeans, and people of West Eurasian descent in general tend to score higher for odds of male pattern hair loss. But he is not a typical West Eurasian, is he? Because he's from the Upper Paleolithic. So, do we judge him as a West Eurasian? Because for a West Eurasian, scoring only 1 times the average odds of male pattern hair loss is very, very good. It's a very good score. But for somebody who's an Indian or South Indian or Oceanian, it's a typical score. So what standard do we apply to him? I'm not sure. For atrial fibrillation, he's got below average score for that. Really good to see. He's got lower odds for deep vein thrombosis. So if you pay attention, we see that he's got lower odds for various cardiovascular issues. And he's got lower odds for cardiovascular issues panel here as well. So he's definitely quite protected from various cardiovascular issues. And also, if you look at the biomarkers panel, I remember that as well from the biomarkers panel. He's got lower levels of LDL and higher levels of HDL cholesterol. High HDL cholesterol is protective from cardiovascular issues. Low LDL is not so much, but high HDL is protective from cardiovascular issues. So this individual is really good. This individual is doing really good for risk of various cardiovascular conditions such as stroke or heart attack or aneurysm, stuff like that. Doing pretty good. All right. He's got lower odds of ADHD. He's got higher odds of unipolar depression. He's got higher odds of bipolar type 1. Very interesting. And he does have the risk genotype here in DRD2 in this variation. This is the no-go learner variation, so he does not have any no-go learner alleles. Kind of typical for non-Europeans to score that, so there's nothing too concerning here. And he does have high score for schizophrenia as well. And he has average score for type 2 diabetes, and he has also average score for type 1 diabetes. He has high score for Alzheimer's. That's very interesting. Does he have the APOE variants for Alzheimer's? Let's look that up. Alzheimer's. Nope. That stuff is not in the file. So APOE stuff is not in this file. So we can't know if he does or does not have APOE variants for Alzheimer's. Now for cancer section, let's look at that. No risk for breast cancer. That's really good. So he's quite protected from breast cancer. He does have a predisposition to prostate cancer. That tells me this predisposition to prostate cancer tells me that his score for epithelial cancers is also going to be quite high, because the prostate cancer is linked to the epithelial cancer panel. So, well, it's not quite high. It's actually pretty good. It's actually looking pretty good. But yeah, maybe I was mistaken. Yeah, I was mistaken. But then again, this score is not terrible either. It's 1.26, so it's not terrible either. It's not like 2.26. It's only 1. So yeah. He does have a very high score for glioma or brain cancer, which is very interesting. So there is definitely a predisposition to brain cancer, and there is also a predisposition to thyroid cancer. Actually, this person has predisposition to every type of cancer. If you look at it this way, and except for breast cancer, and also testicular cancer as well. Look at that. 2 risk variants here through here. In Keto G, if you look at the genotypes in Keto G, he's got these 2 genotypes that lead to higher risk of testicular cancer. So Keto G genotypes are really bad here, predisposing this individual to testicular cancer. And he also has a JAK2 risk variant for polycythemia vera. So also predisposition to blood cancer. Well, polycythemia vera is kind of like a red blood cell count cancer. Red blood cell cancer. Okay. He doesn't have any risk for celiac disease. Let's look through the rare traits, rare diseases. He doesn't have any important variants for Crohn's disease, which is really good to see. And does he have any other conditions that are uncommon here? For allergies, he's got 13 risk variants out of 18, which is really high. So he's definitely predisposed to allergies. By really high, I mean you're supposed to have around 1/3 risk variants out of total. So if you have 18 variants in total, you should have 6 risk variants, and he has 13. So definitely really high predisposition to allergies here. No risk variants for anything else though. So he doesn't really have any risk variants for any uncommon conditions. By the way, I'm ignoring stuff like this because it says it's common. So I'm ignoring the common stuff. I'm ignoring the common risk variants, because what you really need to watch out for is the uncommon ones. So he doesn't really have any uncommon risk variants for any uncommon conditions. So that's pretty good. All right. Now let's go ahead and explore his monogenic traits results. So it looks like he's definitely much more of a warrior based on his COMT, MAOA, and MAOB genotypes. He even has the AA genotype in Combs-Val-Met variation, which is very, very interesting. That's a very European genotype. He's got Met-Met genotype here. And what about MAOA? He doesn't have the genotype in MAOA's RS67 something. I forgot what it is. But that's not here. That's not here. He's got this genotype in MAOB, which I'm pretty sure is a warrior phenotype genotype as well. Very interesting. This is a warrior genotype as well in COMT. So he's got all these warrior genotypes, so it's no surprise that he's scoring warrior phenotype based on these genotypes. He's predicted to have intermediate number of D2 dopamine receptors based on his genotypes in DRD2. He does not have no-go learner variants. Does he have a genotype for TAC1? Let's see. Nope, I don't see TAC1. TAC1 is not in the file. And he's predicted to have intermediate or higher level of 5-HT and serotonin. And we do not see a genotype for 5-HT-TLPR. Okay. Alright, he does have a predisposition to higher odds of autism. 52% odds for higher odds of autism and very low odds for intermediate or lower odds of autism. So he's definitely predisposed to higher odds of autism. He's predisposed to being lactose intolerant. He does not have any variants for lactase persistence. He doesn't have the European MCM6 variant. Doesn't have the Arab variant. I think it's also MCM6. And he doesn't even have the worldwide variant in LCT. This one is not exclusive to Europeans. This one is kind of present everywhere in the world. It is still highest in Europeans, but it's present everywhere in the world. But he doesn't even have this one. So this individual is definitely predisposed to being lactase intolerant. He's predicted to have higher level of empathy based on OXTR genotype. Very interesting. Based on these 4 genotypes, to be more precise. Let's scroll past. Okay, so for him, for multiple sclerosis, we already looked over this. He does not have these variants here. This doesn't have the risk genotype here in HLA-DRB1. For this genotype, he does not have any risk variants, but he does have a risk genotype here, and no risk genotype here. Very interesting. So it looks like there's some dislinkage happening, because typically you will inherit all of these risk haplotypes together, but in his case he inherited only one risk allele here, or I think it was two risk alleles in one variation, but without the risk alleles in the other two variations. So there was some kind of a dislinkage happening that caused this to happen. So that's very interesting. Well, it's a pretty wide. This gene, the HLA-D gene, is very like huge. If you look at it, it's very long and it stretches out, right? So these linkages there happen all the time. It's not like HERC2 where it's very tiny and small. All right. For cardiovascular issues, scoring lower odds of cardiovascular issues. Well, that's no surprise because that affects the cardiovascular issues panel for the polygenic risk score page, and we remember he was scoring. Very low for odds of cardiovascular issues based on that page. Okay, so for facial morphology panel, let's look at that. He has European genotype in this variation of EDAR, partially European genotype in this variation of EDAR, and not European genotype in this variation of EDAR. So this here says likely some East Asian facial traits, most likely non-European ethnic background. Very, very interesting. He also has a genotype for slightly shorter mid-face length, higher odds of protruding nasal bridge, intermediate nose size. Wow, very, very interesting. He doesn't have any HLA risk variants for vitiligo. Really good. And for telomeres, did I go over the telomere length for this individual? So he's got a genotype for longer telomeres, two genotypes for shorter telomeres, and one genotype for higher telomere length. Did I go over the telomere lengths? Let's go over them again. Hold on. He's got longer telomere length than average. Really good. So he's predicted to have longer telomere length than average, longer lifespan. Really good to see. All right. Where was I? No micropenis. Really good to see. Mix of muscle types, likely more sprinter than an endurance athlete. Mix of muscle types, pretty good. One variant for increased pain sensitivity. So in SCN9A, he's got one variant for hyper pain sensitivity. Okay, let's see what else. He's not a carrier of any of the albinism variants. He doesn't carry variants for familiar Mediterranean fever. He does have genotypes for reduced efficiency in processing folic acid. For example, this in MTHFR leads to reduced efficiency in processing folic acid. This will also lead to a bad result for the homocysteine panel, which will also negatively affect the cardiovascular issues panel because it's all together interconnected together with the way my tool works. But it looks like it was not enough. This genotype alone was not enough to destroy the result by too much, right? Because the cardiovascular issues result was too good, right? So this one genotype on its own was not enough to destroy the result. Let's look at the homocysteine panel. Let's look at it. Yeah, the homocysteine panel is not looking good. It's looking quite bad. It's looking. It's still predicted to have intermediate homocysteine levels, but the elevated homocysteine levels 37.5%. That's a very high score. But because of the very low odds of cardiovascular issues, based on the cardiovascular issues panel that we saw earlier, here, it is sort of mitigated, right? It is mitigated. So it is not enough. This one genotype is not enough to completely destroy the result, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, the homocysteine result panel is quite bad here in this case. So this individual definitely has a predisposition to higher levels of homocysteine. He even has variants for homocystinuria, which in this case will probably be a result of miscalls, but maybe not. For CBS panel, he has a genotype for increased homocysteine levels, a genotype for lower levels of plasma homocysteine, which is really good, but another genotype for higher levels of plasma homocysteine. So yes, this individual has definitely a predisposition to increased homocysteine levels. Even though the highest thing they score is intermediate, still, if you look at the number for elevated homocysteine levels, it's 37.5 versus lower, it's 20.8. Definitely a very, very big difference. But despite that, this is not enough to completely ruin the result because of the very good result for cardiovascular issues panel here. So, because of the really good result for cardiovascular issues panel being 56% for lower odds and 10% for higher odds, this completely saved this individual's score. All right, so for epithelial cancers, we're going to scroll past that. Let's see what else. Okay. Muscular dystrophy myopathies. No risk variance for that. No risk variance for ADL. Looks like nothing was found for ADL. Color blindness panel. No risk variance for color blindness in OPN1LW. No risk variance for OPN1SW. By the way, really fun fact about these genes. MW and LW, those are on the X, while SW is on, I think, the 7th. So they're named very similarly, but they're located in a very different place from each other. So that's why if you have risk variance on LW or MW, this is something that's only going to be expressed in you if you are a male. But if you have risk variance on SW, this is something you can experience effects of. I'm not sure. I'm getting tied up in my words. This is something that you can experience effects of if you are a female as well, because it's on the 7th. For the FTO gene panel, he's scoring intermediate or higher odds of obesity. Very interesting. And okay, based on 1, 2, 3, 4 SNPs. For syncope panel, based on 2 SNPs, he's got a higher odds of syncope, which is very interesting. And for biotraits panel, he's got 2 copies of the farmer CLT-CL1 gene variant, which leads to a selective advantage in processing carbohydrate-rich diets, presumably including those with lots of sugar. That's very ironic because he's definitely not a farmer. No agriculture was possible in the type of environment he was living in. But it's very interesting that he has 2 copies of the farmer CLT-CL1 variant. Very, very, very cool. Very cool. For blood group, let's get onto the blood type. His blood type is most likely type O at 66.6% likelihood, and second most likely blood type is type A at 32. Let me zoom in. At 32.6% likelihood, and then type B and type AB is most likely not his blood type. Those are quite unlikely. Now, I skipped over quite a lot of stuff because I'm not sure how to really deliver this to you in a short video like this to keep your engagement and keep people watching because it's really boring stuff. But anyway, thanks for watching until the end. Make sure you check out the description of the video. You can buy the raw DNA of Vestonice16 from my PayHip page, where I sell it in 23andMe format. And you can also buy my trait predictor tool from my itch page, which allows you to generate reports like this for yourself, for any raw sample you buy from my PayHip page that you could use to generate your own reports. If you want to do this research on your own, you could do this on your own using my trait predictor. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.